Your clients get to know the real you, but they don't get to know all of you. You have to choose as a therapist who is pursuing a personal brand, who's trying to be more self-expressed in your work. You have to choose with intention, what parts of me am I bringing into my business? What parts of my life am I publicizing? And what parts of my lived experiences and my deepest self are private?
Hi, I'm Kim Tolson and I'm the traveling therapist. It's my passion to teach therapists how to navigate online private practices and multiple income streams so they can travel the world. I'm a digital nomad with a virtual insurance-based private therapy practice and a multi-six-figure coaching business. I'm obsessed with entrepreneurship and developing tools that can help therapists live an adventurous lifestyle. In this podcast, I will discuss my journey as a digital nomad. I'll chat with other traveling therapists and help you navigate the complexities of running an online insurance-based practice. I'm so glad to have you with me on this journey. Building a private practice can be challenging. I know for me, when I was starting out, I had no idea how to get referrals. I had no idea how to manage paperwork. I knew nothing about insurance billing. The whole process was really daunting. Building a private practice can be challenging, to say the least. I remember when I was starting out, I had no idea how to get referrals. I had no idea how to navigate insurance. I had no idea even what paperwork was required. So growing a caseload, navigating insurance, and managing billing and paperwork all take significant amounts of time. And that's all in addition to delivering great care to your clients. That's why Alma gives clinicians the tools they need to build a thriving private practice. When you join their insurance program, you can get credentialed within 45 days and access to enhanced reimbursement rates. They also handle all the paperwork from eligibility checks to claim submissions, and they guarantee payment within 2 weeks of each appointment. So in addition to their insurance program, Alma also offers time-saving tools and administrative support, so you can spend less time on paperwork and more time delivering great care to your clients and traveling the world. Learn more about building a thriving private practice with Alma at helloalma.com/Kim. That's hello, ALMA.com/KYM to get started. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Traveling Therapist Podcast. I'm really excited today to have Meaganson, I love this name, here with us today. Meagan is a therapist, but also a coach that helps therapists in their lifestyles and, expanding their personal brands. So I always like to start out, Meagan, with the question, how did you go from being a traditional therapist to a traveling therapist?
Kim, first of all, thank you so much for having me today. It's a delight to be here, and I'm super excited for this conversation. It's great to be here. And how did I become a traveling therapist? Well, I became a traveling therapist in 2016 when my husband and I decided it was time to completely uproot our lives and move across the country to start anew. So we were in Texas at the time. We were in Houston. And my husband was an oil and gas engineer, and he was, just really becoming disenfranchised with corporate America and the work that he was doing. And he was really craving a complete transformation in his life. And I was here for it. I was in private practice at the time in Houston, and I was fine, but I was also, I'd never lived anywhere other than Houston. So I was ready for a new adventure. So we kind of threw a dart at a map, so to speak, and landed in Oregon, packed up, moved to Portland. And at the time, I was going to be the only one working. He quit his job. He was going on sabbatical. So it was important that we not go from an abundance of income to no income at all. So I decided to try to move my Texas caseload online, which, hey, this was like pre-pandemic. I was like on the cutting edge of therapists who were moving their practice. 2016. Yeah.
Wow. Right.
It was kind of a challenge even to find a HIPAA compliant software to use for video sessions, but I did. And I was like, whoa, this really works. Look what just happened. I just moved across the country. My income didn't change. My clinical work didn't suffer. So that was when the seeds were planted for me that I didn't need to be tied down to a specific location for the rest of my career, which was
Yes.
very thrilling.
Yes. Oh, that's amazing. And then before we hit record, you had said that you've sort of evolved from even that place to what were you saying, like a group practice, and also now
Mhm.
you're a coach. And can you talk about a little bit about that transition, how you went from this to that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like once you get a taste of the freedom of
Hmm.
location independence, right?
I
It's
can relate.
Pandora's box is
Yeah.
open and it's just like whoosh, everything is possible. And so I remember that feeling in 2016, 2017 of like, oh, anything is possible. I started my career in private practice feeling very restricted, very
Hmm.
constricted in my private practice office. And now that I was pushing the limits, I wanted to see like how far could I go. So I was in private practice, and long story short, I was ready for something more. I had aspiration as a therapist for something bigger. At the time, I thought
Yes.
my only option was group practice. I thought that's just
Hmm.
what you do as a
Right.
therapist who wants something more. So I created a group practice. A couple of years into that, I was really tuning into, I don't think this is quite the thing. Like this is great and I'm
Mm-hmm.
still the founder of the group. It is thriving here in Portland, but
Right.
I was feeling in myself like, oh, this isn't your soul's purpose. This isn't the work that you're supposed to do. And that's when I pivoted and started experimenting with coaching other therapists who were pursuing paths beyond private practice. And that is where my heart is at. That's where my time goes now, is into my coaching business. And a big part of the vision for me with this coaching business is being location independent for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I just recorded another episode for this about having multiple income streams and how, you can, spread it out and you don't have to be tied down to this one-to-one client model
Mhm.
anymore. So
Mhm.
I love that.
Yeah.
So before we hit record, we were talking a little bit about just what you wanted to talk about today with the listeners. And it was really this idea of how a therapist who wants to become a traveling therapist can escape the private practice prism
Mhm.
and create a profitable brand for themselves. So if they want to like get out of that private practice, like if they're stuck in a brick and mortar, or even if they're tired of seeing clients, like what can they do to start changing their brand to, expand it to coaching, or just, making it a profitable personal brand, as you were saying before we hit record? What can a
Mhm.
therapist do?
So many things. And I
Yeah.
really do feel in this season of my life and my career, like I am here to just spread the word that group practice isn't your only option. So if you're a therapist
Mhm.
in private practice and you're feeling right now like this isn't enough, I feel trapped in this office. I feel handcuffed to my desk chair and my computer screen hour after hour. And you have a little bubbling aspiration or ambition inside of you that's seeking something more. I think the first thing to do is to really take a pause and explore, what is it that your heart is craving, right? If your
Mhm.
heart is craving a space in the community where you're providing mentorship and supervision and training and community engagement, and you like working behind the scenes, you like admin, organization, systems, becoming a group practice owner could be a really beautiful path for you to pursue.
Mhm.
If that doesn't sound like what makes your heart sing, managing people and being behind the scenes, if what you're craving is being sort of in front of the camera, so to speak, if you want to speak, if you want to write, if you want to talk to people, if you want to work with clients in different ways, maybe retreats or courses or programs, then the personal branding path is available to you as a therapist. And maybe it would
Mhm.
be helpful if I explained a little bit about what personal branding is.
I would love that. Yeah.
Okay.
And I just, before we hop into that, I just want to say I can totally relate to what you're saying. And I always talk about that in this podcast. If you're going to do other income streams, like you have to find that thing you're passionate about, but the thing that you're going to be good at doing too,
That's right.
like I talk about this on here all the time. I hate public speaking, like live public speaking.
Mm,
Although, sometimes I have to do that with these other income streams I've created. But the passion to like, share about insurance billing in your private practice, how to be empowered around that,
mm,
or, how to become a traveling therapist, like sort of supersedes that. And I feel like, I just have this calling
mm,
inside of me to just continuously give back and put that out into the community.
mhm,
So I'm just, noting on what you're saying. It's like if you've got that like buzz inside of you about a topic or a passion or something, like figure out a way, like you're saying, to get that out there.
Mm. And
Yeah.
I love what you're modeling too, Kim, around
Mhm.
like you can have, because you have a personal brand. Kim Tolson, the traveling therapist, is a personal
Mhm.
brand. You're sharing personal stories, personal experiences, and you're doing it in a way that's aligned with your strengths. So you
Right.
don't love live public speaking. So you do a podcast,
That's
because right
right.
now it's just me and you. So it's
Right.
it's like you, even if you feel shy or you have stage fright or performance anxiety, that's okay. Like, that's okay.
Mm.
First of all, performance skills are learnable.
Mm.
So you can
Love
learn how
that.
to speak confidently. You can learn how to perform without fear. And you can choose ways of showing up within your personal brand that are safely within your comfort zone. There are so many options. So, yes,
Mhm.
what is a personal brand? It's kind of it's a big term, a little bit nebulous, and I think it's really helpful for us to just tune into what does it actually mean and what can
Mhm.
I do if I choose that pathway for myself. So a personal
Yes.
brand is a business that's based on you,
Mm.
your personality, your values, your stories, and most importantly, your subject matter expertise. So one of the most famous therapist with a personal brand that we all know and love is Brene Brown.
Mm. I
Okay.
was just
Brene
thinking that.
Brown
Yep.
has a personal brand. She leads with who she is. Without a doubt what her personality is like. She shares her personal stories and her lived experiences, but it's all
Mhm.
backed by her subject matter expertise. For her, it's been research areas. But for therapists, it's what is your specialty within your private practice? What skills have you honed? What theories have you learned? Therapists have so much knowledge and so many skills inside of their minds and their hearts that need to be shared with the whole world, not
Mhm.
just with
Mhm.
clients in private practice. So, if you choose this personal branding path, you get to combine everything you know. You get to call in the people that you're meant to serve, and you get to show up as an unapologetic version of yourself. And for me, that is just a magical trifecta that brings
Mm.
me so much joy and so much freedom in my life as a therapist.
Yes. Oh, I love that so much. Yeah, I think it's being authentic too is a big part of it, just like
Mhm.
really being in touch with your own values and who
That's
you
right.
are as a person, and then being able to share that with the world, however you want to do it. If it's not public speaking, through a podcast or,
Mhm.
a course or,
A blog.
pre-recorded YouTube videos, a blog,
Mhm.
right?
You
Exactly.
can
Yeah.
write. Yeah.
Yeah.
So many
So
options.
yeah, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, yeah. So what does somebody do if they like want to get started with developing this personal brand? Like where do they start? And then how do you put it out there in the world once you identify, this is the way I want to do it through a YouTube channel or through
Yeah.
blogging, like what is that process like for
Yeah.
people?
Yeah, so this is exactly what I do in my work with clients in my program Next Level Therapist. And
Nice.
it's a long process, right? Like building a brand and a business beyond private practice, it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen quickly. But what I want to do today is give you a place to start. Like
Mhm.
where do I begin? Don't worry about what you're going to do in the future. Don't worry about what comes next. I find that getting too far ahead of yourself is the quickest pathway to shut down, to
Mhm.
freeze response, overwhelm. So if you start feeling overwhelmed or you start feeling like I can't do it, chances are you've just gotten a little too far ahead of yourself. And I want to invite you to come back to where you are right now in this moment. And in this moment, something that you can do to begin the personal branding process is to become more of who you really are with your current therapy clients in your private practice today.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
discovering elements of your honest and authentic personality that you maybe hide away when you are, quote, at work, because we've been conditioned as therapists to be blank slates, right? We
Mhm.
learned in graduate school, don't say too much about yourself, don't be too much of yourself, be a blank slate, you be quiet, you can be you at home, but at work, you are there for the client. So the very first step is to push back against that paradigm and that old school rule book and start bringing a little more of who you are into the work that you're already doing.
Mhm. Yes, absolutely. I love that. Yeah. Yeah, so you start to identify that stuff, and then what do you do with it? How do you move, let's say, from or differentiate between that like therapist role and that coaching role, even like through the social media world, or how do you
Mm.
start to separate yourself out now that you're shedding this blank slate persona and you're trying to show yourself more to the world? Like, how do you navigate that? Because I get that question a lot with therapists who want to do multiple income streams. They're like, well, gosh, do I start talking about, the fact that I had a drinking problem? Now I want to help other therapists not, or, other people in the world not drink. Do I want my clients to see this on social media? Like, how do you
Mm.
start to encourage therapists to be able to put that stuff out there without worrying about, I guess, tarnishing their own professional persona as a therapist?
Hmm. Oh, goodness. So many juicy things to unpack in what you just said.
Okay.
So the first thing I want to say is, again, don't get ahead of yourself. Like right now, you are a
Mm.
therapist in private practice. So we don't need to worry right now about what comes later. Maybe you become a coach later. Maybe you become a consultant. Maybe you stop seeing therapy clients entirely. Maybe you double down on you're a therapist forever. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter what you do in the future. There is so much richness in
Mm.
the business that you have right now. So let's just focus on where you are right
Mhm.
now. So let's say that you begin to explore some elements of your personality, of your personal stories that you want to weave into your existing private practice, but you're scared. That's what I'm
Mhm.
hearing. And what
Mhm.
you're saying right now, Kim, is that you hear from folks a lot of fear. There's a fear of like, oh, but what if my colleagues judge me? What if my reputation is tarnished? What if this
Yeah.
jeopardizes my license in some way? Does that check out for you that what you're feeling is a lot of fear?
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I hear a lot. Because for example, even me putting out on, social media that I'm a traveling therapist, some therapists don't
Mm,
even feel comfortable with their clients knowing that they're traveling, that they're in a
right.
different state or place. So you
Yeah.
start putting that out there, inevitably your clients are going to Google you or things are going to come up
Mhm.
about you. So
That's
it's
right.
that fear of just, okay, I'm going to start putting this part of my brand out, but how's that going to hurt my professional reputation with my
Yeah.
clients or, like you said,
Mhm.
colleagues? Or, like I remember I was it wasn't a group practice, but we all shared an office. And I told them, I was like, I'm leaving, I'm going to go all online. And they were just
Mhm.
like beside themselves. They were like, you
Mhm.
can't do this. You can't, this
Mhm.
is so, how are you going to do that? And they had all these
Yeah.
questions, but I got a lot of pushback from it, and then you've got to start advertising that out there. So I guess I'm thinking about these pieces of yourself that change who you are professionally to the rest of the world. And how do you just like push through that and let
Mhm.
yourself do it without worrying about hurting your referral sources or that sort of
Yeah.
thing, if that makes sense.
Oh, it does make so much sense. And you know what? What I want to validate here, Kim, is that
Mhm.
therapists can be a really judgy bunch.
Yes,
Mhm.
I agree.
Yeah, therapists honestly sometimes are the worst. Like if we're just
Right.
being real about it, therapists really judgmental of other therapists, and we're really quick to project our own desires, our own unmet needs onto our colleagues. And I've been there. I've done it, like I get it. I used to judge. I tell this story all the time. I used to early in my career openly judge therapists who charged premium cash pay rates as an
Yes.
example.
Yes.
I used to judge therapists who were also doing coaching work. I used to be like judgy right there with the best of them. And over the last 5 or so years of my life and just in my own professional development and my own deep personal work, I've realized, oh, those were your shadows and you judged
Yes.
because you wanted. And so my
Mm.
my point is, yeah, you are going to be judged. Let's accept that as fact. As you start to break the mold, as you start to push against what our very traditional patriarchal graduate school conditioning therapy society has taught us is right and wrong, as you start to push against that, people are going to judge you for it. And it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Oh,
matter
I love
because
that.
as you start to honor who you are and show up in the world and with your clients and in the business as who you are going to feel so much more aligned. You are going to feel so much stronger within yourself. You will be shocked what kind of judgment you can tolerate when you are really acting with alignment around who you are. That doesn't mean it's not
Love that.
hard. It's really important to be in community. as you are
Mhm.
going through this process. I mean, this is a big theme that emerges for folks in the next level therapist community is like, oh, I'm getting this pushback. My colleague said this, my friend said that. And it's really important that you have a community of people who get it and can hold
Mhm.
space for you and can be mirrors for you around your strength and your beauty and your authenticity when other people are trying really hard to reel you back into the oppressive systems that they are still participating in.
Going in network with insurance can be tough. For example, waiting a year to get credentialed in some cases. Filing all the right paperwork is time consuming and tedious, and even after you're done, it can take months to get credentialed and start seeing clients. That's why Alma makes it easy and financially rewarding to accept insurance. When you join the insurance program, you can get credentialed within 45 days and access to enhanced reimbursement rates. They also handle all the paperwork from eligibility checks to claim submissions, and they guarantee payment within 2 weeks of each appointment. Once you've joined Alma's insurance program, you can see clients in your state of licensure regardless of where you're working from. This is particularly exciting for me as a traveling therapist, as I know it is probably for you too. You can literally be anywhere and still see your clients through Alma. Learn more about building a thriving private practice with Alma at helloalma.com/Kim. That's helloalma.com/KYM to get started. Oh, yes. I love that so much. Yeah, I talk about that all the time. I've got, this community of other therapists that have multiple income streams and Facebook groups, and we get together and we really support each other. And I don't know how I'd get through it without that type of
Yeah.
community
Oh,
because it is
exactly.
so hard, with the
Hmm.
the judgments and the community dynamics that can
Yeah.
happen in Facebook groups, and it's tough. Yeah. But I
And
love what you're saying. Oh, go ahead. Mhm.
well, I just wanted to speak to one more element of what you were sharing about, how
Yeah.
do I know like what to share? Okay, so I'm doing
Mhm.
this personal exploration work. I'm getting more in touch with who I am. But just one of my so I have a gift to share with listeners after this interview about doing this. How do I actually do this in practice? And there's a lesson inside of this gift that's all about boundaries. And it's about like, how do I know what to share and what not to share? And one thing that I love to say that I talk more about in this training is your clients and your community and your audience, however you want to think about it. Let's just say clients for simplicity. Your clients get to know the real you, but they don't get to know all of you.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
you have to choose as a therapist who is pursuing a personal brand, who's trying to be more self expressed in your work. You have to choose with intention, what parts of me am I bringing into my business? What parts of my life am I publicizing? And what parts of my lived experiences and my deepest self are private, are really
Mhm.
just for me. So there's opportunity for choice and consent within yourself every
Mhm.
step of the way as you are weaving more of who you are into the work that you do. So don't feel like it's black or white. I'm totally a blank slate or I'm totally an open book. No, neither of those positions are healthy. What we are
Mhm.
trying to do is show up with authenticity and openness and boundaries and limits, all
That's
based on who we are and what we need.
Mhm. I love
Does that make
that.
sense?
It totally does.
Okay,
And,
great.
for me, over time, that's really changed for me. I was super nervous in the beginning, full of shame, like you said, that patriarchy of you can't be doing this, and full of just anxiety around just like sharing these little pieces of me. And now I've really become more of an open book about just everything going on as
Mhm,
a, traveling therapist, fights with the boyfriend about
mhm.
packing and the stress with that, like really getting more in depth with that stuff as it's evolved over time for me. So I like what you're saying. The boundaries have changed for me as I've become more comfortable with it. So I
And there's
totally
a
relate.
wonderful
Mhm.
example in what you just shared. So, one thing that's important to consider when you are bringing more of you into your business is making sure that the parts of you you're bringing into your business are connected to your subject matter expertise and the clients that you're serving, right? So, for example, if you are a traveling therapist and you have an audience of therapists who want to learn how to be location independent, a totally appropriate story to share with them from your life is the fight you had with your boyfriend about what to pack for an upcoming trip. There's a
Right.
cohesion around the story that you're telling about your life and the work that you're doing with the people that you serve. It
Mm.
wouldn't make sense, as an example, for you to come in and tell a story about, I don't know, like a fight you had with your, mother. Or,
Yeah.
it's like you want to make sure that what you're sharing fits within the
Yeah.
brand, that
Mhm.
it speaks to who you are serving. And this is where it can be really helpful to differentiate an expert with a personal brand from an influencer, right? An
Mm. Oh, can you say
influencer,
more? Yeah.
yeah, an
Mhm.
influencer, let's just use Instagram as an example. An influencer on Instagram is someone who has a business based on their personality and their values, but no subject matter expertise, right? Like they are
Right.
just living their life, they're promoting products, they have something to say. That's great. It's wonderful for them. And they can really do and say whatever they want because
Mhm.
their brand is just them living their life.
Right.
But when you have a personal brand based on subject matter expertise, when you are saying, for example, I'm a therapist with specialized skills and training in overcoming trauma for millennial women. I'm just making that up.
Mhm. Yeah.
Then what you're saying is that I am here to serve millennial women who are healing from trauma. I am here for you. And as I show up for you, my gift to you is going to be giving you an honest, open, and unapologetic, authentic version of myself. That
Mm.
my gift is that I am showing up to serve you as my full self.
Right.
That's different than just being an influencer, which is just I'm being myself and you're here to, watch the roller coaster of my life.
The train wreck, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you're right, the trainer, whatever it might be. But when you're leading with subject matter
Yeah.
expertise, you're leading with service as yourself. So when
Mhm.
you're thinking about what to share, what parts of your personality to share, what stories from your life to share, you can always ask yourself, does sharing this serve the people that I am here to support?
Mhm. Love that. Yeah, that makes so much sense. And even for me, I mean, if I did have a fight with my mom, choosing the disclosure around it to bring it back to helping my audience, like you're saying, like we
That's
do
right.
as therapists, right? And we
Mhm.
use self
Yeah.
disclosure even as therapists. It's intentional for me anyway. I'm going to share
Mhm.
something, but it's going to be pertinent to what's going on with them to help them, with the rapport and, to help them feel supported around what's going on with them.
Yeah.
So same with that, like fight with mom might be about her wanting me to go on a cruise with her every 6 weeks and I can't,
Mm.
you know, so
Perfect.
trying to
Yes.
try to
Totally, Kim.
spin that. Yeah. Hmm.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's not about and when I'm in this process of discerning, like what's happening
Hmm.
in my life right now that I wanna share versus that I don't wanna share. There's like 3
Right.
categories of story. Like one category is like, I do not wanna share this because it's too raw and vulnerable. I'm not
Mm.
ready to share this. Right. My
Yes.
friend Lindsay Bonham, many people know from Money Skills for Therapists. Lindsay often says, share the scar and not the wound.
Mm.
And I think that's so beautiful, right? If
It
you have
really
a
is.
wound, don't share it publicly. Keep that private. That's category number
Mhm.
1. Category number 2 is like, oh, I could share. I'm totally fine to share this, but it's not actually relevant to my people. And then
Mhm.
category number 3 is I feel good to share this and it's relevant to my people. So nowhere in any of these categories is there secret keeping. In no moment do I say, "Oh, Megan, don't share that because that is a secret. And if someone knows that about you, they're not going to love you anymore. They're not going to like you anymore. They're not
Mhm.
going to trust you anymore." No, no, no. That's old trauma stuff,
Right.
right? That secret keeping. I'm not keeping any secrets. I just know that you are following me to learn about business building. So I'm going to try to respect your time and attention by sharing things with you that are applicable to the relationship that we have.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But it's not a secret. I'm just, you don't need to know what I had for breakfast. Like that doesn't help you
Right.
build a next level business. So I'll just keep that to myself.
Yeah, unless it's at a restaurant that you can use as a tax write-off if you post a picture about it, for
Yeah,
your
yeah.
business, I
If
mean,
you search hard enough,
totally.
there are segues for most of your stories in
Yeah.
life. Like you can find a connection. And I do that all the time. If I just have a funny story, I'll be like, I would love to tell this story. Is there a connection to the people that I'm serving? And if I can find a connection, I will use it and I will play with it and have fun with it. And if I can't find a connection, then I will just tell the story to my friends and call it a day.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
good. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think what else should we say about this? I know a thing that comes up a lot is when they want to begin like selling non-therapy type products to the world, like how do you differentiate your businesses? Do you give advice around that? Like, separating it out into two businesses,
Mhm.
separate social media accounts? Like with the branding, like how do you work on that if that's something you want to get into? If you still want to keep
Yeah.
your therapy practice, but then have this other part of your life going on with the coaching
Yeah.
and
We can
yeah.
certainly talk about that. I have a whole training about that. If
Oh,
people
nice.
want to dig deeper into that, it's called very on the nose, How to Sell Your Non-Therapy Services Without Jeopardizing Your Therapy License.
Ah,
It's the most boring title of anything that I've created, but I'm like, it is what it is. Let's be
yeah.
clear about it. So the short answer is this is a very complex conversation. That's the short
Okay.
answer.
Yeah.
And understanding like the ethical ins and outs of what you can do and what you can't do and how to separate things. It's very nuanced. It's very much in the gray area. So
Mm.
let's talk about it now. But just for anyone who's listening, just know that there's a lot of thinking and a lot of kind of
Yeah.
intention setting that you have to do as you're working on creating a business beyond private practice. I
Hmm.
think the most important question to come back to is, does what I want to do beyond the therapy room conflict with my ethical code in any way, shape, or form?
Mm.
So, if you want to do something that conflicts with your ethical code, chances are you cannot provide that service or offering within your private practice. That you will have to create
Nice.
a business separate from your private practice where you are showing up as a coach, an educator, a consultant, whatever you want to call yourself. But if the idea that you have does fit safely within the parameters of your ethical code, you probably can sell it within your private practice with some consideration. Um,
Mm.
some things that you can sell within your private practice might be a small online course that
Mm.
connects to your specialty area within your private practice, right? Or a
Nice.
workshop, a psychoeducational workshop is something that you could do safely within your psychotherapy practice. So that's just
Mhm.
kind of some food for thought, really kind of
Yeah.
think on that as you're brainstorming your big ideas or your vision for the future. Does this conflict with my ethical license? And if so, I probably am not providing that service as a therapist. I'm providing it
Hmm.
as some other type of professional.
Right. Yeah, that's really good advice. I've never thought of it that way. Because that is a huge struggle. It's like I get that question all the time. Should I have two separate businesses for this? So that's a
Yeah.
great way to differentiate it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have a
Yes.
whole course on it. I'm glad to hear that. I didn't
Yeah.
know that. So nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty new. We just did it last month. We just put it together
Oh,
and it,
nice.
it took me about a year of research and thinking and studying and just being with the conversation in a really intentional way before my brain was ready to say, okay, I think I've got a grasp on this now. Let's put it together because it is really complicated. But also, if you're asking yourself, should this be separate? Chances
Mhm.
are it should be separate.
Mm,
Um,
good point.
yeah, and that's okay, and some people can feel really overwhelmed at the prospect of having 2 businesses, right? It feels like a lot, it's too much, and if it
Mhm.
feels like it's too much, what I say is that if it feels like too much, then you still have work to do in your existing private practice.
Mhm.
And this is in Next Level Therapist, this is where we begin. Phase 1 of Next Level Therapist is all about perfecting your existing private practice, because what I see
Mm.
all too often, Kim, is that people who have big aspirations and big ambitions get ahead of themselves
Mm.
and they jump into a program, they an expensive program or starting a new business, they just jump in head first before they have spent time really fixing what's broken in their current business.
Mm.
And that's just a fast track ticket to burnout when you do that,
Mm.
right? Because you're building then on a shaky foundation. So I
Yeah.
always like to say, come back to your foundation before you dive into doing something big and flashy, before you dive into what comes next, be with what is right now and ask yourself, what can I do right now to increase my revenue, to
Mm.
lower my caseload, to tighten up my boundaries, get my systems working more efficiently? Because if I do all of those things, magically, I'm going to have more space, more time, more money, more creativity to lean
Mhm.
in to what comes next. So that's my
Mm.
biggest recommendation is
I
put a
love
pin
that
in it and
recommendation.
focus on what you're doing right now.
I need you in my life now. You're like, this is like the story of my life. I'm what they call like a quick start, right? So I
Uh-huh.
get like these ideas and I get obsessed with them and I have to put them out. And the last episode I was recording, I was just talking about all my different income streams and they've all been like that. Like I just get so
Yeah.
excited. I just have this going on over here. I hop over here, create this thing, and then I have four things going on, and the
Right.
systems are terrible, and I'm just all over the place.
Yeah. And we get burnt
So
out.
yeah,
I think so many therapists, I mean, I certainly have that quality as well, shiny object syndrome.
yeah.
I get really excited about the new fresh idea. I want to start it. And I think
Mhm.
what I want to say is this is a beautiful quality that we
Yeah.
have, and we don't have to numb that part of ourselves. We just have to do the foundational work first. And we avoid the foundational work because we're bored, we're tired, we're already exhausted in our private practices. So the thought of doing
Mhm.
more work on the private practice, it's like, I don't want to. I feel like a little tantruming telling, I don't want to do that. I want to do the fun thing instead. And
Right.
and sometimes as a coach, I feel like I have to be like the mother figure and come in and be
Yes.
like, you can't have your ice cream until you finish your vegetables. But guess what? It only takes one round of work to really dial in your current business. It's not like something
Mm.
you have to do over and over again. If you can just get really focused, fix the business that you have right now, solidify it, then
Mhm.
you have made space for play. And then you can really start expressing that creativity whenever the urge strikes you, which is so
Yes.
fun.
Oh my gosh, it is so fun. That's my favorite part. I don't want to
Mhm.
do the systems and the years of follow-up in these
Oh,
programs I
yeah.
created, so
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
like to build them and then let somebody else run them for me is kind of where
Yes.
I am right
Yes.
now with this stuff. Yeah.
I don't know if you're interested in human design, Kim, but you sound like a real manifester to me.
I am a manifester. Yeah. I've had my
Uh-huh.
chart
Yes,
read.
yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, are you a manifesting generator or just a manifester?
A manifesting generator. Mhm.
Uh-huh. Yeah. That makes so much sense, right? You have all these
Yeah.
ideas and you
Yeah.
can, you can like catalyze, you're a catalyst, you bring things to life and you have just enough generative energy to like build them out and get them going. But then you want to move on to the next, catalyst in your life.
Exactly.
Anyways, didn't know this conversation was going to take a human design turn, but I love it. I love it.
I
And
love it too. Yeah.
yeah,
I
and I'm a
know.
projector, so my work is to guide
Nice.
the energy of others. And when I learned that,
Yes.
I was like, oh, that's why I'm a coach. I'm like, oh,
That
yes,
makes
that's why I'm a
perfect
coach.
sense.
Yeah, totally. I know. It's a really beautiful
Yeah.
system.
Wow. Yeah. So if you guys don't know what we're talking about, you can like Google human design and put in
Yeah.
your information and they'll run a free report for you and give you more details about your personality type. It's very interesting. I love
Yeah,
that stuff.
I do too.
So anyway, yeah, well, thank you. Thanks for touching on that too. I'm trying to think, is there
hmm
anything else you think the listeners would want to hear about this?
I think I just coming back to the traveling aspect of
Mm,
your work and this show. It's another reason why I love personal branding and why for me personally it is I would choose it over starting a group practice. If I could go back in time and if I knew then what I knew now, I would have stepped straight into the personal branding path because independence and flexibility is so
mhm.
important to me and the way that I
Yeah.
want to live my life. And that isn't to say that you can't have a group practice that can function without your daily presence. You absolutely can. It's just going to take you a little longer to get to that point as a group practice owner than creating a personal brand. A personal brand, by its very nature, is flexible. It is designed to meet your needs. I often say,
Mhm,
my business is for me, not my clients.
mhm.
And I
Yeah.
really try to get my clients to internalize this too. Like you are creating a business to serve you first and your clients second. Your clients are benefactors of your business, but you,
Mhm.
you are the one who should be benefiting from what you've created the most. And having that flexibility to work online or to run a group program where maybe you are working with clients 9 months out of the year and then you take 3 months in the summer off to travel with your family. That flexibility is really, really magical. And I just want it
Mhm.
for everybody.
Yes. Oh, I agree with that so much.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times people have said to me, well, you don't have a group practice? How have you not started a group practice? You run this insurance program and teach therapists how to do this. It's something that never appealed to me, like having, employees under me or having to manage a
Yeah.
large staff or something like that. I like the just, having my business and being able to like contribute to
Mhm.
it this day if I want to or not, go hiking, being able to
Mm.
decide like how I want to spend my time,
What a
as a
gift
traveling
that
therapist.
you knew that so clearly, so early,
Mhm.
Kim. I think a lot of people, they don't know anything else is an option. They don't know
Yeah.
there's another option. They think group practice is it. And I mean, that certainly was true for me back in
Mhm.
2016, 2017. I thought it was it. And again, I'm not here to dismiss the group practice path. I just want people to really ask themselves, is it your path?
Yeah.
And if it is, pursue it with your whole heart. And I will be so grateful and so in awe of what you build within your community. And if it's
Yeah.
not your path, don't shame yourself into thinking that you have to make it work for you because it's what everyone's telling you you should do.
Mhm.
There is a whole other path available to you that is just as beautiful, and just follow your heart, I guess, is what I have to
Yeah.
say. Like, just do what feels right
I
for
love
you.
that. I
Mhm.
love that. Yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on today and just exciting stuff. Where can people find you if they want to learn more about your program or what you have to offer as
Well,
far as
thank
the
you.
coaching goes?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me and for this
Um,
opportunity. And so I mentioned this gift that I have for listeners early in the conversation. So if you are feeling pulled to bring more of who you are into the business that you have today, I would love to share my personality power pack with you. And this is a training that
oh,
I have pulled straight out of the Next Level Therapist process and condensed it so that you can get a little taste of what this process is like. So, the Personality Power Pack is a 5-step guide to identifying your authentic personality and becoming unapologetically self expressed in your private practice. And you can
wow.
download that at personalitypowerpack.com. So I would love for you to check that out if you're interested. And all the magic happens in my email community. So when you sign up for the Personality Power Pack, you'll start getting my weekly emails where I share stories and lessons and trainings and resources and all sorts of fun things. So I would love to have you there. And of course, you can check me out too at meaganson.com.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we'll put all this in the show notes too, so you guys can click right through and access everything. Thank
Amazing.
you.
Thank you, Kim. It was really delightful to chat with you today.
You too. Thank you so much for listening to the Traveling Therapist podcast. For show notes, links, and downloads, head over to thetravelingtherapist.com, where you'll be able to learn more about my journey, the courses I've created for you, and other exciting resources to make your dreams become a reality. If you've enjoyed this episode, please share with your traveling therapist friends, subscribe to the podcast, and if you loved this episode, please leave a review.